Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Elisa Marie Designs. Welcome to Self-Care Sunday. Happy Mother's Day. I had to leave my own house because it's just crazy in there. And I figured, well, maybe it's best that I do a walking meditation. And I love our little park. Let me show you. On the corner from where I live. And I thought I would walk around the park. And I like the sound of kids in the background. And I figured it'll be really quiet or really crazy with every available parent taking their child out to the park to give the other parent a rest. Oh, I think I'm going to do a U-turn because I think we have a baseball game starting. It's a little crazy. Oh my gosh, and I love when these little kids play baseball. They are the cutest. Oh, they're so determined to hit that ball. I have to come during the week one day and show you one of our games. They're just so adorable. So I'm going to find a place to plant myself, and I think probably in the playground where no kids are. They're not on any of the swings. Oh, I see a few. But I'll be able to sit down on the bench, and I'll be able to talk to you guys. And I also, today's Self-Care Sunday, which is just going to be a personal observation. I'm not going to be diamond painting or anything, but I want you guys to know that I did receive Chris's rulers. Thank you, Chris, from the Diamond Brush Company. And I thought, oh, this is perfect for Mommy's Day. I got a little gift. And my son took me out shopping yesterday. He made me run around Burlington. Do you have a Burlington coat factory in your neighborhood? It's kind of like a Marshall's or a Ross, or even maybe a little bit like a Home God I call them. Oh, this is a pretty scene. This is a pretty scene. Hold on. And I just wanted to say that I know today being Mother's Day is not an easy day for some of us. Also, maybe you've lost your mom or someone that was a mom, or maybe you're missing your mom because you're living in another place far away, or maybe you're hoping to become a mom. So I just want you to know that you're in my thoughts. Today can be a hard day for so many of us. But I wanted to share with you my own story of being a mom, which wasn't an easy one. Not at all. My son was a little firecracker born on the 4th of July. Oh my goodness, my poor physician. Let me see who's in this park. Who took such good care of me. If they don't want to be on camera, especially kids. Oh, it's packed. I'm just looking for a place to hang out. I think I'm going to go around this side of the park. I could go near those swings. That might be pretty quiet. Let's see. They're practicing tennis. This park has gotten so beautiful and so busy. They actually did the grounds in the back for baseball. And I love walking around here, like maybe right before dinner time, because the trouble truck is always coming. It has to be like maybe around 5 o'clock the trouble truck comes around. And by trouble truck, I mean ice cream truck. The ice cream truck comes around and all the kids are screaming for ice cream. I'm like, oh, is there a bench here? I guess I could sit here and talk, but I think I'm going to walk a little bit. I wish this was a swing. I'll sit here. There's nobody on the slide yet. But the kids get really curious as to what we're doing. But I'm going to sit here. And I'm going to get out what I wanted to read to you today. So, just going back to my own little story about being a mom. Becoming a mom. I had a really difficult pregnancy when I found out that I was pregnant. And my son was 16 weeks early. He was 1 pound, 11 ounces. And he was in the hospital from July the 4th until November the 1st. No, October the 30th. I think they had his due date. They had changed it so many times, so I'm confused. And it is like 38 years later. I think that they changed his due date because he was so small, and like they kind of thought that I was newly pregnant. I wasn't. I was switching birth controls on and off, on and off, on and off. And that was part of the problem. But you know, all these bits and pieces of history come back to you because I found out that I was pregnant in May. So I had 2 months to adjust to being pregnant, and I knew exactly when I got pregnant because the relationship was ending and I was already 1 foot out the door, and ta-da! Life has other plans for you. And so long story short, Josh was early and they kept changing his due date, and I know that he came home October the 30th because I brought him home in a Cabbage Patch little costume that they had to change your Cabbage Patch doll, and I had a Cabbage Patch doll, ironically, and he came home in a little mouse outfit. If I can find that picture, I'll put it up. But he was so tiny, and I had a really clear vision of, no matter what they were telling me, that I was going to have this baby, that he was going to be okay, I was going to be okay, and I kept that in my mind. And they kept telling me that my son was gone and I should just, let the doctor take it from me. But I knew he was there. I felt him kicking, and I knew that I was totally dilated. But I also knew that it was blocked from me having a natural birth because my placenta didn't turn. Your placenta turns, and it's usually above your baby's head if everything is good, or above your baby's feet if your baby's in position, and my placenta didn't turn. It was actually in the way. So I had all this, even though I was going in and out of consciousness, I had all this going on in my mind, and I just knew I was going to be okay. It was going to be okay. It was going to be okay. He was going to be okay. The most dire of circumstances, and I just had a really clear. And this is the girl that I'm trying to get back to, this girl that had a clear vision, a very unstoppable, unmovable, solid feet on the ground. Didn't matter what anybody said or anybody did. I've been through a lot, so I'm getting there. But when I look back on it, I'm like, wow. I don't know if I would have had the same experience if I was with his father. If he had an opinion, I think it could have been a totally different journey for me. But my son was born July 4th, 1986 at 8:18 a.m. and every doctor in that hospital was in that room with me. And it was something to, it was a learning experience for all the doctors that were there and residents. And I had the best doctor, Dr. Marvin Crane. And the anesthesiologist was telling me that, my son was gone, and, someone else was saying, you're young, you can have other children. And I would just remember crying, and I just remember seeing all these doctors around me. And my doctor said, I need a moment of silence. We're going to say a prayer, which he did. And he said, we're good? I said, we're good. And the next thing I remember is waking up, and that's a whole other story for another day. I don't want to go into that. But he's here. The journey was rough. And was I expecting to be a mom? No. Did I plan on being a mom? No. Did I plan on being a single mom? No. I had plans. Maybe that's why I don't plan anymore. This is such a journey of self-discovery, isn't it? I mean, even at this age, I'm still remembering things that maybe I forgot, maybe that were at that point, at that time, were not really important, but now they're in retrospection and remembering them. I'm remembering, I think I remembered right near Mother's Day or on Mother's Day that I was pregnant. I can't really, it's not all clear yet because it was so, and in fact, I'm watching this little squirrel get a snack. I'm easily distracted, which is why I had to leave my house. So I was actually working, and I was working for Thomas Jefferson University. So I was in the hospital when I collapsed, and then my doctor came in. He's like, "You're pregnant," and I was like, "No, I'm not. You've been taking care of me." You know how I've been trying to get on the right birth control. He's like, well, I told you. And well, anyway, I'm laughing about it now because you can, and you will too. You will too. One day at a time. And I'm telling you, it goes by so fast. It goes by in a blink. I look at my son sometimes and I'm like, I brought you home from the hospital? And like I raised you? You were little at one time? It goes by so quickly. So don't stress the little stuff. But I wanted to read you something. It was something that I read in my lifetime, but I really read it every single day the first time my son left home. And my son left home early because he was in high school when we moved to New York. And he stayed with me in Manhattan, and he was working directly across the street. I could have looked out the window and I could have saw where he was working, which was, oh, let me think, it's a really big department store in New York. And everybody goes there. It's actually a tourist stop. And this was right near the World Trade Center too. And he said, I'm moving to Brooklyn. I was like, you're what? You just got here. He was with me for 2 weeks. He said, I'm moving to Brooklyn. I met, I got a couple of guys where I'm working, and he said, we're going to share an apartment. And I was like, oh wow, he's going to be 18, and he left. And then from there, he went to Atlantic City, and then from there, he went to Philly, and then I came back from Philly and he went to Albany. And so we were never, for a long time, we weren't in the same place at the same time. I did see him, but when I would go out to Atlantic City to see him because he was working in the casino, and I went to go see him when he was in Albany, and but for a long time we weren't in the same place at the same time, and that was difficult. And I came across this reading that I would read every single day. And at that time, my married life was not stable. It was, I wasn't near my parents. They were in another state. My ex-husband was constantly working. I was alone a lot. And so I had really good friends. I still have really good friends in New York. The friends that I made in New York are still my friends, and good friends and close friends, and friends that I don't talk to all the time, but I can call up, and in a hot minute, if they needed me, I'd be there. And, they still say to me, when you coming home? When you coming home? I have to introduce you to my friends, because if you ever go to New York, you're going to want to check them all out. They're all very successful, productive individuals. I will definitely send you to Gregory to get a walking tour of New York City. I'm going to put him in the description. Fun! He was my neighbor. He lived above me, and my door was always open, and he would come downstairs, and he would be like, you got a cup of sugar? And he would come in and sit down and talk, or he would come down in the morning, and I was not the same person that I am today. I was just miserable and overworked and overstressed because I had a vision for the cafe that I wanted to open, and I had a partner who was an ex-husband now, and that he did not share this vision. He was filled with fear of me failing when I didn't want to open the place at the time that we opened it to begin with. So it was like, you can't win or lose. It was one of those situations. I didn't want to open a long-held dream that I had to have my own cafe from when I was like 18 years old, maybe 18. And now I'm like, I don't know how old I'm living in New York. My son is old enough, he's gone. And I really wanted to open this cafe, but I knew it was the wrong time. I knew it was the wrong time. And I think maybe he caught up to it later. And I think that by that time, like, we were like just so on the rocks, just so on the rocks. It was just a horrible time to be successful. You have your vision, and even people that are close to you may not share it, and you have to just, I'm trying to get back to that girl that was just, buried her feet in the floor and went up against an entire hospital and went up against a million doctors that said, my son was not viable and he was not going to be here, but I knew that he was. I had that clear vision in my head that he was going to survive, and not just survive, he was going to be okay. And it was a hard journey. I'm not saying it was so easy. Yeah, I had a baby that was 16 weeks early, and it wasn't filled with moments, days filled of moments that each one was a tragedy or something traumatic was happening. But I just held on to that vision. When I wish that for all of you. I wish everyone can just, whatever it is that you want in life, to just keep holding on to that. But I was like that already early on in my career, where I was going. When I outgrew a place, I moved very quickly on to the next place. And if somebody told me, no, you can't do that, I just moved them out of the way. I'd be like, thank you for your time. And you can move to the next person that's going to tell me yes, or give me a shot. Yeah, so let me read this to you, because I read it every day when my son left New York. He left Manhattan for Brooklyn. And then it was very quickly that he moved on to other things in his own life. And I love that about him. If I love anything about my son, I love the fact that I believe that I instilled in him not my dream, but his own dream. I constantly told him, because my son has a very strong sense of obligation and doing things, and sometimes he puts his own needs on the side for others. And so I'm trying to have him be the type of man that it's not selfish if you do what you want to do, and you have to create your own path so that you can take others along with you also. So let me read this to you. Well, this poem is from the prophet, from Kahlil Gibran, and this poem is in the public domain, and it is of children. And a woman who held a babe close to her bosom said, "Speak to us of children." And he said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself." I love that line. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children, living arrows, are set forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness. For even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. I read that every day from, I think, when my son was 17 years old, and sometimes I still read it. But I'm going to do what I usually do. If I was home, I would, write this out, and I would think about different phrases that I loved. Like I said, as I was reading it, life's longing for itself. So as we turn to the timeless words of Kahlil Gibran, this is from 1923. The book, The Prophet, was from 1923, a masterpiece. I read it again and again and again. And in the passage, the woman who is creating a child asks to speak of children, and what follows is just this poetic wisdom, but also the call to surrender. And that takes trust and a love that is free. Your children are not your children. That's the radical beginning that I think grips most people when they read this poem. And he reminds us that we are not the owners, but we are sacred stewards of our children. As parents, as caregivers, as mentors, or simply as people witnessing the next generation. And I miss that. I miss that I can look out for generations that are coming up in the world, because parents are so radical today. I don't know that we have that freedom. I guess if you're in a position as a teacher or a coach, Yes, but I think there's been so many times that I've seen a child doing something wrong. I think I told you the story where I saw a child and he was like walking on a ledge. It was about that high. And I pulled my car over because another kid was behind him and he was hitting him with a stick and he was trying to knock him off. And I was like, oh, what are you doing? Stop that. It's a Friday afternoon. Do you want your mother to be in a hospital today with you with a broken leg? Don't do that. Get down from there. And the mother was behind the other end of the wall and came out and just, told me off and not in a nice way. So I do miss that. Look at this little one. Hello, little one. So we're not here to mold them into our image, but to honor the divine uniqueness that each one of our children, every person, unique, individual, the uniqueness, divine uniqueness in each soul. The next line, they come through you, but not from you. I think children do arrive through us, but they are not our creations to possess. They are the universe expressing itself anew. Again, this speaks to trust, trusting life, trusting the mystery, trusting the unfolding of each human journey. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts. So true. And it reminds us to release that need to control our kids, to control what they want to become, what they feel that they want in their soul to become. Because eventually, hopefully, if they possess the courage of anything in their life, not just who you want them to be, but who anyone wants them to be, hopefully they find that courage in themselves to say, that's it, I've had enough. This is not what I want to do. I'm not happy. I'm suffering. I have to move to where my soul is telling me to go. Not just to release the need to control. Give them love, yes, unconditionally. But you can't expect them to adopt your beliefs, your ways, your fears. Their thoughts and their souls are destined for the world of tomorrow. And that's a realm we can't fully know. And I don't know if any of us wanted to live in this world today. If we said, oh yeah, you know what? I think I want to be born now. And I think I want to live, or like maybe live at the time. I want to be my child's friend so that I can maybe see through their eyes what they see. That's probably the only way. Probably the only way you can ever see what your children see and know what they know, because we just can't. And they can't. They can't see our world either. Right? We think that we see what is in front of them, and we try and protect them, but we can't really fully ever know. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, and this touches me deeply. As much as we nurture and protect and raise our children, we must also learn to let go. Their soul is a journey which belongs to them, and that letting go is one of the deepest acts of love. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. And that line is an invitation to grow. Children live in the present, in the possibility. They live in change, and Gibran is urging us to mirror their openness instead of enclosing them in our memories, in our nostalgia, or maybe even in our regret. And life is always moving forward, and so must we. You are the bows from which your children are living arrows are sent forth. And here, for me, Gibran brings it all home. They are the arrow, and life, God, the universe, the great archer, draws us back with purpose. What did I tell you? I tell you, they get really curious. They get really curious, and they come. How are ya? What you got? What you got?
What?
The archer draws us back with purpose, and not to break us, but to launch our children, just to launch them as far and true. And our bending is part of the love. I tell my son this all the time: aim true. And it's probably something that I picked up from this reading that's been buried into my brain, that, you know, always aim true. Aim in the direction of your dreams. And I hope he listens. I hope he listens to this. Hi, Josh. So let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness. And this is perhaps the most beautiful line. It's a reminder to trust the tension, the stretch, the sacrifice, because it's all in service of something greater. Be glad, for the love that steadies you also gives flight to the ones you love most. So, as a closing reflection on this Self-Care Sunday, I invite you to reflect on the ways you hold on and the ways that you let go. Whether you are a parent, a mentor, or simply someone who loves deeply, remember that love is not control. Love is the bow. Love is the bow that holds steady, so that others may fly. And I have a little one that's giggling behind me. He so wants my attention right now, and he left his little bowl here, so I think I'm gonna go play some catch with him. It feels so good to get out of the house. I'm so relaxed now. I will see you, as always, in the next one. I think Dad came to rescue me, but it's okay. It's all good. Bye. Have a happy Mother's Day.